The Great Hall of the Galactic Summit was unlike anything humanity had ever seen before, a vast, shimmering dome stretching into the void, its walls alive with flickering lights and alien symbols that no human mind could fully comprehend. Delegates from hundreds of species filled the seats, their voices humming in a strange chorus of tongues, some melodic, others harsh or clicking, all blending into a tense symphony of uneasy hope. For centuries, these summits had promised peace, collaboration. Humanity had come with open hands, offering friendship, technology, and a willingness to listen, hoping to finally find a place among the stars, not just as wanderers, but as equals. Yet, as the talks dragged on, it became clear that old wounds ran deep. The HFY, a reptilian race known for their strict codes of honor, accused the humans of breaking past treaties in their rapid expansion. The Ebrith, masters of biotechnological art, sneered at humanity's primitive machines and slow thinking. Arguments flared over resources, borders, and influence, each species jealously guarding what they believed was theirs by right. Even as the human delegation tried to mediate, their efforts fell on deaf ears. Every proposal was twisted, every compromise rejected. The room's air grew thick with frustration, and whispers of distrust began to spread like wildfire. Humanity's ambassador, Mira Callan, a calm yet fierce woman whose every word was measured, stood in the center of the chamber as the final session began. The leaders around her exchanged cold glances. It was clear no one wanted to be the one to admit failure. As Mira rose, the murmurs hushed. "We have come here to build bridges," she said quietly, "but all we have found are walls." She paused, scanning the room where hundreds of eyes, some curious, some hostile, fixed on her. If dialogue cannot bring peace, then perhaps it is time for humanity to choose a different path. A ripple of shock spread through the crowd. Was this a threat? A declaration of war? Mira's voice did not waver as she continued, effective immediately. Humanity will withdraw from the Galactic Council and all allied agreements. We will no longer be bound by councils that serve only to divide us. The chamber erupted into chaos. Shouts in dozens of languages filled the air, delegations rising to protest, some demanding explanations, others calling it betrayal. But Mira raised her hand, commanding silence. "We have tried. We have given all we could. But when respect is absent and dialogue fails, silence is a better shield." As she stepped down, human envoys began packing their belongings with swift efficiency. The summit was ending, not with unity, but with an unprecedented fracture. Outside the Great Hall, the massive space station hovered over a gas giant, a beacon of diplomacy now shadowed by fear and uncertainty. News feeds across the galaxy flashed the announcement humanity was walking away. Speculation ran rampant. Was this a tactic, a bluff, or the start of something far more dangerous? Rumors whispered of secret projects, hidden fleets, and unknown weapons. Some races saw it as a warning, others as an opportunity to reclaim lost territories. Within human command centers, scientists and engineers accelerated their work in silence, knowing the galaxy was watching and waiting. But humanity's leaders had made their choice not out of anger or fear, but from a deep, unshakable belief that their future was theirs alone to decide. As the last human ship disengaged from the summit station, a cold tension settled over the stars. The galaxy had hoped for peace. Instead, it faced a mystery that would soon become a legend. Humanity had left the table, and the void was watching with wide, uncertain eyes. The galaxy buzzed with uneasy whispers after humanity's sudden withdrawal from the Galactic Council, but the true scale of their departure soon became clear only when entire fleets of human ships began vanishing from known space, disappearing as if swallowed by the void itself. No grand announcements, no threats, just a silent, purposeful exodus that left alien civilizations scrambling to understand what was happening. As other races debated whether this was a sign of weakness or a dangerous retreat, human worlds grew quieter, their skies emptying of ships that once traveled to the stars in constant, noisy traffic. The people of Earth and the colonies had not just given up diplomacy, they were rewriting the rules of survival and power, and the galaxy was watching with growing dread. Deep inside, secret, Human command centers, far from prying eyes, teams of scientists worked tirelessly on technologies that had been whispered about for decades, but never revealed, new engines capable of speeds no one else had dared to achieve, weapons that used the fabric of space-time itself, and terraforming. Machines that could transform lifeless planets into thriving worlds in months rather than centuries. As the years passed, human colonies began to appear on planets once considered impossible to live on, worlds with crushing atmospheres, searing heat, or frozen wastelands where no other species could survive. These colonies flourished, powered by relentless innovation and a spirit that refused to accept limits. Meanwhile, the galactic powers grew restless. The HFY, who had once looked down on humans, started sending spies cloaked in silence to investigate these new colonies. The Ebrith, whose biotechnologies rivaled humans, quietly monitored space for any sign of hidden weapons. Every transmission from human space was encrypted. Every probe intercepted showed only silence. Anxiety spread like a dark cloud. Some whispered that humanity was preparing to strike back after their humiliation at the summit. Others feared the rise of a new empire built on cold calculation and unstoppable technology. The truth, however, was far more complicated. Humanity had not turned away from the galaxy out of spite or fear, but because they had finally realized their future lay in their own hands, not in fragile alliances or endless negotiations. They were becoming something new, explorers, warriors, and builders all at once, mastering the galaxy on their own terms. In secret, a fleet of massive ships, larger than any previously built, was assembled. These were not warships, but vessels of migration and creation, floating cities capable of settling new worlds, equipped with tools to bend harsh environments to humanity's will. Yet the fleet carried an unmistakable message. Humanity was no longer dependent on the fragile peace of the Council. They would shape their destiny alone, and none could stop them. Meanwhile, alien diplomats who tried to reach out to humans were met with silence or vague replies, deepening the mystery. No one could say where humanity was going or what their ultimate goal might be, and that uncertainty was more terrifying than any open threat. The galaxy's leaders held emergency meetings, plotting ways to contain what many began to call the human question. But every plan seemed to fall short. Humans refused to be cornered or bargained with. Their departure was not a retreat. It was a bold step into the unknown, a declaration that they would no longer be bound by old rules or fears. As years turned into decades, the human exodus continued quietly but steadily. New stars lit up with human colonies, new trade routes opened far beyond the boundaries of known space, and new technologies emerged that changed the very nature of travel and survival. Each new success was a reminder that humanity had not just survived rejection, they had grown stronger because of it. Still, beneath the surface, the galaxy waited with bated breath, watching for the moment when humanity's silence would end. Would they return as conquerors, allies, or something no one had yet imagined? No one knew, and that unknown shadow loomed large over every corner of the stars. The silent exodus was more than just a withdrawal. It was the beginning of a transformation, one that would change the galaxy forever, and everyone who dared to watch knew that when humanity finally chose to speak again, the cosmos would never be the same. Far beyond the settled systems of the galaxy, where star charts faded into uncertain space, an entire solar system simply vanished without warning, leaving the galaxy stunned and searching for answers that no one could find. The star at the center of that system, once a bright beacon guiding traders, explorers, and diplomats, had gone dark in an instant, extinguished by a force no one could explain. At first, whispers filled the communication channels. A supernova, a natural collapse, perhaps a rare cosmic event. But as scout ships from nearby systems approached the empty void, they found no debris, no radiation, no sign of catastrophic destruction, only a perfect silence where a star and its planets had once shone. Suspicion quickly turned toward humanity, the one species whose recent withdrawal had unsettled every corner of the galaxy. Human ships were known to operate at the edges of the map's space, their colonies pushing into harsh, unknown worlds. Was this an act of aggression, a display of power, or something more terrifying? The Galactic Council, fractured but still functioning, dispatched a small fleet to investigate under a banner of peace and inquiry. When the human task force met the Council's ships near the shadowed system, the tension was palpable. The humans refused to provide any explanation, their faces calm but unreadable behind their helmets, their commanders speaking only in clipped formal language that offered no clues. This silence, more than any weapon, spread fear faster than light. What had humanity done, and what did they plan next? The more the Council pressed, the more humans seemed to retreat into themselves, guarding their secrets like precious shields. Reports soon emerged of strange technologies seen on the human ship's engines that bent space in ways others could barely understand, weapons that shimmered with energy that defied known physics. The galaxy began to speak in hushed tones of the first shadow, the mysterious force humanity now represented, casting doubt and fear over every star they approached. Traders grew cautious. Military commanders tightened security, and scientists scrambled to uncover the truth behind the human enigma. Meanwhile, within human borders, the reality was far more complex. The star had not been destroyed, but carefully contained, its energy harnessed and stored in a technology that could fuel entire fleets or terraform barren worlds. This was not a weapon of destruction, but a tool of creation and power proof that humanity was moving beyond old limits and redefining what was possible. Yet, humanity understood the price of this power. Secrecy was necessary to protect their advances from those who might fear or misuse them. Their silence was not weakness, but strategy. As the Council's fleet withdrew, unable to force answers from the humans, the galaxy was left with a chilling realization. The humans had not just walked away from the old order, they were building a new one in the shadows, on their own terms and with a power no one could yet measure. Every corner of the galaxy now watched the darkness where the star had vanished, wondering what other secrets humanity held and when, or if, they would reveal them. The first shadow was not just a vanished star, it was the beginning of a new chapter, one that promised either a future of unimaginable advancement or a storm that could sweep across the stars and change everything forever. And in the silence that followed, the galaxy waited, holding its breath, as humanity's next move remained hidden in the darkness. Far beyond the boundaries of the known galaxy, past the edges where star maps faded into blank darkness, humanity unveiled something no other species had ever dared to attempt: a thriving colony on a planet so harsh it seemed impossible to live there. This new world, named Aetheris by its settlers, was a place of relentless storms, toxic skies, and jagged mountains that tore at the thin atmosphere. Many species had tried to send explorers or mining expeditions to similar worlds, but had given up after the first failures. Yet humans arrived with a quiet confidence that stunned everyone watching from afar. The colony's establishment was a carefully guarded secret for years, hidden behind layers of encryption and disguised jumps through space to avoid detection. When the news finally broke, it sent ripples of shock through the galactic community. How had humanity survived there? What technology had they used to tame such a brutal environment? Scientists scrambled to understand the terraforming methods. Humans applied machines that pulled oxygen from poison, domes that could withstand cyclones, and energy fields that protected crops from radiation. The settlers themselves were a new breed, hardened, adaptable, and unyielding, embodying a spirit that no challenge could break. Messages sent back from Aetheris spoke of a world both beautiful and deadly, a place where every day was a battle but also a triumph. This was not just colonization, it was a declaration. Humanity was no longer bound by the limits others accepted. They would thrive where others would perish, settle where others feared to tread, and build a future on their own terms. The Galactic Council, now weakened and fractured by humanity's earlier withdrawal, struggled to respond. Some factions urged caution, calling for renewed talks and attempts to bring humanity back into the fold. Others viewed the human frontier as a threat, a challenge to the old order that could not be ignored. Military forces increased patrols near human space, and secret missions sought to infiltrate the frontier to learn its secrets. But humanity remained silent on the matter. They refused to acknowledge any attempt at interference, sending only formal warnings that such actions would be seen as aggression. The tension mounted as other species realized that humanity was not just expanding, it was rewriting the rules of galactic coexistence. Trade routes shifted, alliances realigned, and whispers of war began to circulate in the darkest corners of space. Yet, despite the growing fear, some admired humanity's boldness. Scholars spoke in hushed tones of a species that had turned adversity into opportunity, fear into innovation. Aetherus was more than a colony. It was a symbol of human resilience and ambition. Still, no one knew what the next move would be. Would humanity push further into unknown space, bringing with it the promise of new discoveries or the threat of conflict? Or would they fortify their frontier, preparing for a future where they stood alone against a galaxy that both feared and respected them? As the storms raged over Aetherus and the colony lights burned against the dark horizon, humanity's future unfolded like a silent promise, a future forged in hardship, guided by hope and guarded by a determination that no force could break. The human frontier was no longer just a distant dream. It was real, and it was changing the galaxy forever. Across the vast reaches of the galaxy, the news of humanity's silent but unstoppable rise spread like wildfire, stirring unease in every corner where stars glimmered and civilizations thrived. Governments once secure behind ancient alliances now trembled in uncertainty as human colonies multiplied. Beyond the old boundaries, pushing ever deeper into the unknown with technologies that seemed to blur the line between science and magic, and fleets that moved with a speed and precision no other race could match, whispers turned to conversations, conversations to urgent meetings, and soon the word on every lip was the same fear. For decades, humanity had chosen silence and self-reliance, letting their work speak in quiet but powerful ways, yet now the galaxy faced a force that refused to be tamed, a species that would not bow to councils or treaties, and whose vision of the future challenged every other race's claim to space and survival. Secret alliances formed in shadow. Older powers who had long underestimated humans scrambled to gather their forces, while younger civilizations who had once admired humanity now debated whether to join their side or prepare to resist. The Galactic Council, once the heart of galactic unity, was now a fractured shell, struggling to hold together as its members questioned everything they had believed about power and peace. At the heart of this storm stood humanity's great fleets, massive armadas capable of defending their colonies and striking swiftly if needed. Yet their commanders made it clear they sought no war, only the freedom to grow and explore. But freedom, as many soon realized, was a double-edged sword, for it threatened the balance the galaxy had maintained for centuries. On distant worlds, spies gathered intelligence on human developments, revealing astonishing breakthroughs, engines that bent space, weapons that harnessed energy in unimaginable ways, and the ability to reshape planets into new homes in record time. Each discovery added weight to the growing dread. Humanity was no longer just a distant curiosity, but a force that could reshape the destiny of every star system. Yet amidst this fear, a strange respect began to grow. Some saw in humanity a reflection of their own struggles, the desire to survive, to adapt, to rise beyond limits, and wondered if the galaxy's fear was born not just of danger, but of envy. Debates raged in council halls and taverns alike, asking if confrontation was inevitable, or if a new understanding might still be reached. Meanwhile, the humans themselves continued their expansion with steady resolve, their leaders aware of the eyes watching them, but refusing to be slowed by threats or suspicion. They sent envoys with clear messages. Humanity would protect its own and explore where others feared, but they did not seek to conquer or destroy without cause. Their ambition was to survive, to thrive, and to push the boundaries of possibility. Yet the galaxy had never seen such a blend of determination and silence, and that unknown was the most terrifying thing of all. As star systems on the edges of human territory prepared defenses, fleets mobilized, and spies infiltrated, the question hung in the void: when would humanity strike, or would their strength alone be enough to command the future? The answer remained hidden, locked behind human silence and the vast darkness of space. And so, the galaxy began to fear not just because of what humanity had done, but because of what humanity might do next. The balance of power was shifting, the old alliances trembling, and a new era was dawning, one where humanity was no longer just part of the galaxy, but a storm that would shape its destiny. The stars watched, waiting as the silence stretched on, thick with tension and possibility. For years, the galaxy had watched the humans in silence, wondering what their final plan would be. But no answer came, only the steady growth of their frontier, the quiet rise of new colonies, and the cold mystery of their technology, which now surpassed the understanding of even the oldest star. Faring civilizations. The fear had grown deeper than words. It became a part of daily conversation, a shadow behind every political meeting, every military gathering, every whisper in the trade hubs and council halls. But one day, without warning, the silence ended, not with war, not with weapons, but with a signal broadcast across every known channel in the galaxy. It was simple, clear, and impossible to ignore. A calm human voice spoke. "We are ready to speak." The signal included coordinates deep in neutral space, far from any border, a place once considered barren and useless. Within hours, fleets began to move, diplomatic vessels, scouts, observers, and military escorts from every major species, all heading toward the meeting point with caution and curiosity. What they found when they arrived was something no one expected. Not a war fleet, not a fortress, but a structure floating in space like a great shining star, a vast orbital station built by humans. Beautiful, functional, and massive, its design blending human engineering with elements unknown to any other race. The station was named Concord, and it stood as a message to the entire galaxy. When the council representatives arrived, they were greeted politely by human envoys, faces calm, eyes sharp, no longer hiding but not threatening either. The meetings began slowly, filled with tension, but as the hours passed, a new understanding started to grow. Humanity had not vanished to build weapons or conquer the stars. They had walked away to escape endless arguments, greed, and delay. They had chosen to grow on their own, to learn faster, to build what they once dreamed without being told it was impossible. Their silence had been a lesson, a test. And now, with the galaxy shaken and humbled, they had returned not to destroy, but to lead. What shocked many was what humans offered next: knowledge. They opened limited access to their energy systems, their terraforming models, their deep space engines. They showed how they had tamed stars and shaped impossible planets. But they did not offer control. Instead, they offered a choice. Humanity proposed a new pact, not like the old council that forced unity through rules and fear, but a new alliance built on earned respect, mutual help, and freedom to explore without interference. "You can join," the human envoy said, "or you can stay as you are. But we will continue, with or without you." The words were not a threat, but they echoed like thunder. Some species immediately accepted, eager to learn and share. Others hesitated, still unsure. A few walked away, afraid of what change would bring. But most stayed, listening, understanding at last that the galaxy had turned, and the future now had a human face. What came next was not peace or war, it was something greater. A shift. The Concord Pact grew slowly but steadily. Not every species joined, but enough did to create a powerful network of explorers, thinkers, and builders. Trade increased, new routes opened, and dangerous worlds, once avoided, became homes. Humanity did not take control of the galaxy, they redefined it. Their silence had been the warning. Their return was the answer. The fear that had once filled every heart was replaced by something stronger: respect. And though some still watched from the shadows, waiting for weakness or revenge, they found none. Because humanity had not come back to rule, but to lead forward. The stars, once scattered with doubt and suspicion, now burned brighter with hope and purpose. And so, the story of humans in the galaxy reached its turning point, not with fire and war, but with vision and strength. The silence had broken. The future had begun.